Get ready to take your striking game to the next level with the Focus Ball. Dramatically improve footwork, timing, head movement, hand-eye coordination, reflex, and overall fight IQ. It's lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere. When you don't have a coach to do mitt work, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a heavy bag to hit, get a Focus Ball. When you don't have a sparring partner, get yourself a Focus Ball. And when you just want to have fun punching and kicking, get a Focus Ball. When you train with the Focus Ball, you train your eyes and your brain to read punches so that you can hit and not get hit, making this very simple device a must-have for all combat sports athletes and enthusiasts alike. So if you want to take your striking game to the next level, don't wait. Get the Focus Ball now.
Yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to the Tuesday Tussle for this Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. And we are calling this one To Teach to Defeat Styles. Yeah, we're talking about the sport of boxing. We're talking about taking in training and focal points on how to face various styles, to defeat them, what it requires as far as what you bring to the ring, what you have garnered in your instructions that you receive from your coaches and trainers. So with that focus on tonight's show, that's where we will be. I want to say welcome everybody. Don't forget to smash the like button as you come into the building. And we are going to be joined this evening. We have a special guest with us this evening. We got KG from Supreme Beast Boxing Talk in the building with us this evening to share in this great topic that could warrant another episode, because in the hour that we do this show, we can't cover all of that, but we're going to break that ice as we get into this great conversation. What's going on with you, KG? How you doing this evening, brother? And thank you for joining with this discussion this evening.
Hi, Chad. What's going on, Stormy? Like I told you when I first joined you backstage, man, it's another damn paradise, man. Another damn paradise. And when you presented this topic to me, you probably could see my face, but we were on the phone talking. You was like, KG lit up when I asked you. So I'm kind of looking forward to this and see what kind of zingers you throw at me, because I know they're coming. Don't try to tell me that they ain't, because I know they are.
No. Listen, I'll tell you something. This is going to be, well, I hope what we can accomplish here is to have a great conversation on what is required, because you've worked with guys in the gym. You've done some shaking it out in there yourself. What is required to defeat styles in boxing? One of the things, and you and I spoke about this just before going live as well, one of the things that we find in today's matchups, that we find guys avoiding certain fights more than we see them running to the smoke, as they say. And part of that reason is that some of the fighters of today are accustomed to fighting within their familiar grounds, what they feel confident in or whatever. But in order to become what I term a complete fighter, you have to be able to press the envelope of the unknown factors, to face those styles that could possibly give you trouble. In other words, if you happen to be a fighter that has exceptional footwork, you can get around in that ring pretty good. You can You can slip, you can slide, forward advance, retreat, turning and circling opponents. That's great. But what if you fight another guy that can do exactly what you do, maybe even better than you? Now it becomes a thing where what's the adjustment to that, you know? Or if you happen to be that aggressive, forward marching guy who likes to cut the ring off on someone and smother their opportunity to cut off their options, things of that nature. And that person who slips and slide and move, it's a challenge to get them to, you know, get cornered off or slow them down from that. But you very well may run into a guy that's like you that can do those things. Now you have to adjust. You have to show a new wrinkle. And see, these are the kind of things that when a fighter is more adept and has had the opportunities to become more knowledgeable through the experiences of that, they don't give way to the concerns about who that is across the ring. They can focus more on implementing their game plans and how they're going to go about their strategies to win. And promoters and managers can feel more confident with putting them in with, regardless of who the guy is. You know what I'm saying? So, your thoughts on that as we open up this conversation?
Everything that you just said, I agree. And I think, and I believe, because you got three guys in your corner. You got a cut man, of course. He's supposed to study, you know what I'm saying, his aspect of the game. But you got two actual trainers. We need to be investigating and programming and being proactive. Like you said, if we keep fighting the same styles, the guy's gonna plateau because he's not gonna, you know what I'm saying, expect the unexpected because he's been expecting what, you know what I'm saying, the gifts he's been given. But if this trainer, like you said, like we identify these guys, not the guy with the towel over his shoulder, but the actual trainer, each fight that his fighter's in, he's chipping away to plan for maybe somebody on by this third or fourth fight. So this guy may exhibit something that this guy has, but I know he's not completely this guy, but he has a devastating left hook, like the guy that I want to see my guy fight in 4 fights. I got to test my guy. I got to test his health. I got to find out from him, for one, because I got to be able to look him in his eyes to see if that's the desire that's in him. Do you want to train or do you actually want to fight? Because we can train and we can just be prepared for self-defense and average, you know what I'm saying, Joe Smo in the streets. Or do you have that fire in your eyes that I want to actually start chipping away at you so I can actually rebuild you? We had this discussion about life. You got to destroy in order to rebuild. A lot of these guys come in with that chip on their shoulder. I can do this good. I'm fast. I'm strong. You know how many people I knocked out? I got to steal it from them every time on purpose. That's the true definition of a trainer when it comes to a fighter. I can't become a fanboy and fall in love at what you do good. I got to make it seem like it doesn't bother me. Even though when I go behind closed doors, I'm like, damn, I got one. You get what I'm saying? Because we feel like that, but I'm not going to show him that.
Right. Right.
But at the same time, there's that we got styles, but then we got a lot of hybrid styles now. That's why you got a lot of these guys fixated on saying, my philosophy is this. So this is what I train for, and my guys are prepared in this aspect. So it's almost like if you start dissecting the base styles, inside, outside, boxer puncher, counter fighter, you start dissecting those and you start making hybrids out of these guys. In other words, Bruce Lee, the Jeet Kune Do. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I'm making it KG's way of doing it. That trainer sometimes gets caught up in his own shit that he only sees his vision. Because it's been working. My heavyweight can perform it. My strawweight can perform it. My female fighter can perform it. You get what I'm saying? My cruiserweight, though nobody watches that division, he can perform it. But then we come across, because we bite off a little bit too much more than we can chew, and I come dabble in the welterweight division, and my guy gets outboxed. like completely superiorly outboxed. Now my style looks like it doesn't work. So now I have to humble myself and readjust and start actually training, or stick to my guns and try to still reinforce my style. That's what a lot of trainers are getting caught up with, their style. They're getting away from the actual fundamentals and actually having to damn strategize and play chess and stop showing up in a checkers outfit.
Yes, absolutely. Before we go further, I'm gonna take a quick moment and acknowledge who we got out there in the chat.
Okay.
A few of us come into the building. Steph Brown kicked things off saying, the title alone, this gonna be a good night, chat family. Hit the like button, tell a friend, and share with some kin. Hashtag Wisdom Dome. Appreciate you, Steph Brown. He was here before we went live, waiting. Universal Truth is in the building saying salute sensei. Drew Titan is out there saying, yo, my brother Drew. Mr. Shelton, LDBC or nothing is in the building. William Old School, my brother's out there saying salute Stormy B-Man. Peace, my brother. And y'all smash the like button, people, when entering the building. Peace. Yeah. Then we got a few other out there that's just kind of peeping through the blinds and lurking, but they ain't ready to write in the chat yet. That's okay. But the window is closing. Yeah. I want you to mention, now that we're live over the air, the question that you asked me, and then let everybody know what my answer was and how you felt about my answer when I replied. So can you kind of share that with everybody?
Okay. First off, everybody, me and Stormy, we was just shooting the shit in the back, and I see the backdrop that he has up. So it drew me to ask him the question. And then I've heard a lot of people say this about Mike Tyson. They say Mike Tyson was an inside fighter, and then you might hear that he's a brawler. I asked Stormy, and Stormy used the term slugger. You know what I'm saying? And that was that's another question that I was going to ask you probably after this. And I asked him, and I said, you see him as a slugger? He was like, yeah. I said, would you respect me if I said I saw him as an aggressive counterpuncher? And Stormy said, not all the way, but I can see where you're coming from. And he pretty much broke it down based off of Mike's discipline and obedience, how it faded at a certain point. And he said it faded once Kevin Rooney stepped away. It wasn't when Cuss passed. And that's what a lot of people try to put it on. They said, man, if Cuss would have been still alive, Mike would have been this. You made it clear that Kevin Rooney was still able to enforce Cuss-like model. That wasn't even meant to be a pun there, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? Still enforce his philosophy, the strong, the hard-nosed trainer aspect of it. He didn't show no intimidation from Mike, so I think that's why he was able to still streamline through Mike and make Mike still stay on the straight and narrow once he was in the ring. Couldn't control him out. But at the same time, Mike, in my opinion, as I watched him, he always exhibited a mid-range fighter that could jab, being the smaller man, but he played off of the taller man's jab, slip, and I'm in. You know what I'm saying? So he's countering off a lot of these guys' miscues. He watches for the lazy jab. So Mike was real technical when he was young. And a lot of people just looked at him as, don't blink, Mike gonna knock you out. I'm like, no, it's a lot more technicalities to his damn style, to how he's approaching this. So you showed me and you told me how it faded, and I want you to jump in from there.
Yeah, and the reason that I asked you to kind of breach that subject is because it's going to assist with us getting into the topic of tonight, and no better person really right now than to bring up than Mike, because what my findings, and calling him a slugger over being a brawler or something like that, or even a puncher, understand that sluggers have the mindset of, I'm gonna catch you. brawlers are in there trading up. See, this is why people need to know what the terms really mean when it comes down to fighters. Because a slugger is looking for that opportunity to catch you. A brawler is just going to be letting it fly, letting it rip. Mm-hmm. Now, Mike had technical proficiency behind him being a slugger. Because of his dimensions, he had to accentuate the nuances of the peekaboo style to draw you out of something so he can be effective to get at you. Now, outside of his elusiveness, I will ask you a question. What do you think his greatest his greatest asset was outside of his elusiveness? Because early on, the elusiveness, how he was taught to move and slip and slide and evade punches, was very integral in his success. But I will ask you, what do you think what his next greatest asset outside of that elusiveness was?
I'm going to couple two points. Intimidation and proper punches, because once they landed, he was able to freeze you. He didn't have to be as elusive after that. Like you can see him tone it down, but Mike still with that being driven into him, he was going to be elusive through and through because that was the foundation. But the proper placement and proper throwing of those punches, that right there, that's what stood out to me. And like I said, in a lot of these guys, the fight was lost before the first bell.
Okay, now check this out. You may not have thought of this, but I came up with this many years ago. This was like probably just before he went to, I don't like to say it over the air when we talk about him, because I do have respect for him to a certain degree. When he went away, the intimidation that you mentioned is attached to what I'm about to break down. That wasn't the greatest asset, but you did allude to the punch placements that he had. Mike's next greatest asset outside of his elusiveness was the combination punches that he threw. Mike was not at his best a one punch shot guy. He would hit you with a succession of shots. The elusiveness created the intimidation. Why? Because you couldn't hit him clean. You could not hit him clean. So when you throw your shots at him and he slips or he bobs and he dips and he comes back with a combinations, pap, 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 you're wondering now, like, it's almost like his hands are attached to yours because you're missing. He's not. Now he's up on you. He's on top of you, right? And that's where the intimidation comes. Because not only is he hitting you in combinations, but he punches well. He's not the biggest puncher of the heavyweight division by no means. But the shots and how he was taught to throw them, the punch placement that you mentioned, they had him fighting off of a punch chart where he threw unorthodox combinations. Sometimes the hook to the body, it could be a right hook to the body followed by a left hook to the head, then a right hook to the head. Or it could be the right hook to the body, left hook to the body, right hook to the head. The succession of shots was to throw off the opponent because you cannot block everything when it's coming from different directions. Remember, you see a lot of guys even today, they'll go into a guard to defend and block, and they'll take those shots or try to get out of there if the guy is not stopping. But because guys don't throw more than 2 or 3 shots at a time in today's boxing on average, blocking like this is okay until you could tie a guy up and get out of there. But with Mike, it was dangerous to try to even tie him up because he threw shots like, remember the famous, they call it now the Tyson combo, the hook to the body followed by the uppercut. Because typically when he throw that hook to the body, to the liver, to the kidney, when the guy dips forward,
you're right there.
The uppercut is coming right underneath there. The uppercut brings the chin up. The left hook finishes it off. And see, this succession of punches in a numbered sequence where you could hear Kevin Rooney calling him out to him, 6-5-1. You know, he's telling him the combinations he wants him to throw. And Mike would throw these shots and his opponents couldn't defend them. So the second greatest asset outside of his elusiveness was his combination punching. So many people forget about that. This man had the prettiest combinations and his hands were fast for a short-armed guy who was 220 pounds. It's one of the reasons that a lot of people think that, like, if he fought Joe Frazier, he would beat Joe Frazier, you know, because of his hand speed and things of that nature. But I'm not of that ilk to say that about that particular fight, but it's a great styles matchup when you talk about, because they're similar guys because they come to get you. But Joe was kind of built different inside. It was like, if Mike was built like Joe Frazier, he'd probably be undefeated. I'll just say it like that. Because I think his talent and skill and technicality was higher than Joe. But Joe had something inside of him that even Ali gave credit to. And Ali said, if God ever called me to a holy war, I would want Joe Frazier fighting by my side. That's the highest compliment Ali could give a man as a fighter, because we know how deep he was in his faith. And to say that about Joe, that explains all you need to know about what he thought about him as a fighter. So I just wanted to kind of put that in there. But yeah, my thought process when it came to Mike being like that, that was so effective and it was so exciting. And then, of course, guys who are in the division, they're watching his fights and they're like, damn, if I've got to fight that guy, you know what I mean? It's intimidating because it's like you're seeing nobody. Do you know he never really got hit until he was in there with, I think it was it Quick Tillis? I'm trying to think of which fight it was where he really got hit and then he kind of stumbled back. I don't think it was Quick Tillis. It could have been Tony Tucker. Could have been Tony Tucker, because Tony Tucker hit him with a shot that rocked him back on his ankles, and that had never happened to him before. And it was like a right uppercut that Tony Tucker hit him with, and I think it was in the first or second round of their fight. And allegedly Tucker broke his hand when he threw that shot. That's what they said. But Bone Crusher knocked him down late in their fight. It was a flash knockdown, but Bone Crusher let loose a right hand. He caught Mike slipping and he tagged him and Mike went down. He got right back up, but he wasn't hurt and shook or nothing like that, but he did go down. But all in all, those are factors about his game. And lastly, I want to say, in speaking about him, the combination punches. If you look at a lot of the fighters of today, they're not throwing combinations.
No,
they're not. Tank Davis, who has been kind of compared to Mike in the excitement factor of how he's able to get to guys and get them out of there. And when he stopped Frank Martin, it was off of some combinations. And if you're thinking of Tank as a slugger, no, he's not. I think that Tank is a boxer puncher, but he got power. And the throwaway shot was the right hook, which he was feigning Frank Martin with. But when he got him to bite on that feint and he got close enough within range, he knew when he threw that feint, he could come back with his left uppercut. And when he caught him with that left uppercut, he turned it over into a straight left across the chin. And that was it.
You know, he was drilling that combo in backstage.
Yeah.
He was drilling the exact combo backstage.
Yeah.
That's how I know muscle memory is a beautiful thing. When you drill it in.
That's why I talked about Mike Tyson getting away from things. See, when he got away from the things that he could do and he trained to do, you know, it made him a different type of fighter. And you heard me say before we went live on the air, I said that had he been well trained when he faced Buster Douglas, I don't think it would have been a knockout that night. I think he still might have lost the decision because of the way that Buster boxed him that night. He just would have been able to last and take it, and probably wouldn't have taken as much punishment as he took to get stopped. But see, it's all up there, and these are the kind of things that brings us to this type of subject. But to be able to defeat styles, you have to be versatile. You have to be able to you have to be able to make adjustments on the fly. You have to be able to bring something different if it's not going your way to create. One of the things that Ali would do in matches against opponents that were difficult for him is he would try different things. But there were fighters that he could not get away with that with. And it's no coincidence that the fighters that he couldn't get away with that with all had to have one thing in common. Do you know what that was?
What was that?
They were all trained by Eddie Futch. Do you know that outside of his loss to Trevor Berbick, Ali's other 4 losses came to Eddie Futch trained fighters? Ken Norton, Joe Frazier, Michael Spinks, Leon Spinks, and Larry Holmes. All of those men were trained by Eddie Futch at one time or another. Isn't that something?
That goes to what I was saying. He was drilling a certain, you know what I'm saying? That it was a certain drill there that was able to void out what Ali was.
Well, see, also understand that the greatest separation between all of those men, none of them fought the same way. They didn't have the same styles. Ken Norton was totally different from Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier totally different from Leon Spinks. Larry Holmes totally different from all of them. So it speaks volumes about Eddie Futch's ability to train a guy. And dude,
he can talk guys off ledges.
Dude, it's amazing. It's one of the reasons that I keep his name in the rotation, because all you have to do is go back and look at his fighters and their performances, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You know, Riddick Bowe was his last heavyweight champion. And Riddick Bowe, when trained well by Eddie Futch, was a hell of a heavyweight boxer.
Hell of a heavyweight, yeah. I used to like Riddick Bowe.
He had those bad habits like Mike Tyson outside the ring, though, and when not the same ones that Mike had, but enough of the lure of what happens outside the ring to take the focus away. And that's very disconcerting, because when you have talent like those guys, you have to optimize it, and you only have a short window. It's like it doesn't last long. Think about it like this. Evander Holyfield, who's my favorite fighter, people have heard me talk about this. He was 6'2.5", 6'3" almost. And as a heavyweight, he fought between 208 to 212 at his best weights. 77, 78 inch reach. good stamina. Before he stopped running, he was really high motored. But if he were like the bigger heavyweights that came along, like Bo and Lewis and guys, because they started to get bigger with those men.
Yeah.
He would have been, oh my goodness, a beast.
The same ferocity. Yeah.
You know, his inner fight was way off the charts more than those guys.
It was.
And that's amazing within itself. But it just goes to show that if you have technical ability, Holyfield was a part of that 84 Olympic team, an outstanding team of fighters that you look at: Meldrick Taylor, Sweet Pea Whitaker, Holyfield, Virgil Hill, Tyrell Biggs. There were just so many, you know, fighters who were outstanding. But all of them had the fortune of being taught in the gym by Georgie Benton. And Georgie Benton was a guy, a throwback, a fighter who in his own day and time, when he boxed, he kind of used that old mongoose style, the crab arm defense and everything, the Philly shoulder roll and all of that. But George's philosophy for his fighters was to be in close, get close to him, because then you can put your hands on him.
Yep.
And if you're close to him and you learn how to set your defense, you can get off on him and he can't get you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you could see these guys fighting with that. Mel fought that way. Sweet Pea could fight that way at times. Evander definitely fought like that.
Mm-hmm.
You could just see the guys doing the adjustments. Now, Tyrell Biggs, he didn't fight that way. And I think it had a lot to do with his inner self. Tyrell wasn't the toughest guy.
Mm-hmm.
But out of those guys, he might have been the most athletic guy, you know? And therefore, when he would try to box like Ali, he looked better. He looked, you know, but when he tried to sit down and be a tough guy or whatever, he would have difficulties.
Mm-hmm. Needed that bounce.
Yeah, it was something that, and it's amazing because Tyrell, he was so talented. I mean, you know, that 84 team, like I said, he came away, you know, he got his medal like the other guys. But do you remember when he fought Mike Tyson, which this is the backdrop here?
Mm-hmm.
The first round of that fight, you would have thought you were looking at Ali, the young Ali. The way he came out against Tyson, the way he was flicking that jab and he was moving light on his feet and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But he couldn't even do it for three minutes, because by the end of the round, like the last less than a minute of the round, he got tired already. And I don't know that he trained to fight that way or if he was just mentally defeated by Tyson before the, you know, because Tyson hadn't really got to him yet or anything, but he couldn't sustain what he was doing. And I could remember Georgie Benton saying something to him in between one of the rounds. He was like, look, if your legs is gone, fight them inside. Fight them inside if you got to. Mm-hmm. And these were the instructions that were being given to Tyrell. And we know that he wasn't that type of fighter. So it was like, it was only going to be a matter of time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I know I've been chewing for a moment, but you can go ahead
good.
With whatever you want.
But it's almost like it's you know, fatigue or damn steal the gas out of your tank before them moving around the ring wheel. So him being nervous, tensed up, that's where the gas went. And then, like you explained, we knew him to be fleet of foot, be able to move around, not a sit down type puncher. He's not gonna be able to his reactive skills ain't gonna be on point like that if he's not on his toes. And you see a lot of people who can do that. Like me, I have to break you down before I can actually get comfortable sitting down. Other than that, I'm on my toes the whole time because I have to be reactive. And I can't be as reactive if my feet are on the ground. I can be on the balls of my feet and my heels off the ground, but if I'm looking to sit down, I can't be as reactive if I'm not moving around on my toes. So that takes fatigue. That wears you down. Like even back with the Frank Martin fight, Frank had to maintain that. That's something that had to be maintained.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and trying to do that with Mike Tyson in the sense with him bobbing and weaving, peekabooing, and you're slipping punches. So his punches are coming, they're landing, and the misdirection of his body is making it hesitant of me wanting to throw punches because I don't know where to throw them. Because he's slip, and you can't see him. And then, like we just discussed, his hands are moving that fast. So, the way Styles break it down, in actuality, they say a good inside fighter should be able to beat a great outside fighter. He should, if he's able to press the gas and able to if he's taught properly how to cut the ring off. That's a lost art too, cutting the ring off. Guys, they do not cut the ring off, Stormy. We'll watch a guy follow guys around in the ring. A guy that comes to mind, he's one of my favorite young fighters right now, is Boots Ennis. Boots, when he fought the boxing Karen, I don't want to disrespect him because I don't know this guy's last name, but we were calling him the boxing Karen. Boots followed this guy around the ring, though he possessed, you know what I'm saying, I want to say superior boxing skills, but at the same time, of the avenue of cutting off the ring, we didn't see that. He followed this man the entire fight. Never them could close the back door. And I always say that if I can cut a guy off from going out the left door, can he do the same going out the right? He wasn't doing it on either side. So Boots obviously hasn't learned the art of cutting off the ring. So the style in that fight, you have an elusive fighter, but this guy that is seen as lesser is having a pocket of a ray of light coming in because the superior boxer doesn't know how to cut the ring off.
You know what it's like? Let's do a NFL analogy here. You're playing safety, and you got a guy that has broken into the secondary. Now, are you gonna run straight at him to tackle him, or are you gonna give him an angle?
I'm gonna give him an angle.
You know that you've got a certain point that you can meet him where you can make your tackle. And you know you're not tackling up high, so you got to tackle low. So you got to get to that point that he doesn't have an angle on you, because if you miss that tackle, he gone. It's the same with cutting off the ring with a fighter. That guy, you got to beat him to that spot. Whichever way he moves naturally, if he's an orthodox fighter, he's more than likely circling to his left. If he's a southpaw fighter, he's more than likely circling to his right. So for the orthodox fighter, you've got to slide to your right and anticipate him being there. You don't let him go there. You anticipate where he's going to be. And you force him. Once you've cut that angle and you stop that momentum, now he's going to try to go the other way. Then you step in. It's a simple principle, but you can tell that these men are not working on it in the gym because they don't do it in live action.
And I keep it subtle, Stormy.
There's another philosophy behind teaching it. It's like dancing. If you're doing it incorrectly, it's like stepping on the dance partner's foot. If you're doing it correctly, it's like you go straight into your next move. What's the next step? What's the next move? And it's like it's like having especially for someone who dance like salsa or tango or something like that, because it's about learning the footwork. People who laughed at Vasil Lomachenko because his dad had him doing ballet and stuff like that, or you see Usyk when he's training, he's always dancing all the time. You know what I'm saying? Footwork, dance movement, rhythmic movement is very important for fighters. But it's ridiculed today when you see those guys, especially because you're seeing the European guys do it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the brothers doing it no more. And that's kind of weird, because do you know that Sugar Ray Robinson was a great tap dancer and everything? It's like he had a dance group and troupe that he performed with and everything. But again, we don't know these things because these guys are not studying the history. What made people great? What made the fighters, you know, there's so much. That's why I said this show with this title could garner several parts, because we can't cover it all in an hour on here, you know. But there is so much to talk about. Footwork is very important. Very important. I had a guy that I was working with in the gym, and I was teaching him the balance beam with the yardstick, across the shoulders, walking through the gym, taking the steps. And he was so pissed off. He was like, man, you're not even letting me spar. Why I gotta be doing this stuff?
Oh, he was one of those guys.
he was like, and you know, like he watching the guys in the ring sparring, and he's doing the, you know, the walk, and he's like, man, this is BS, you know. He's like, I was like, dude, don't worry about it. It's for a reason. It's for a reason, you know. And the more they wanted to get in there and spar, the more I would hold them back from doing it. Because I said, you just gonna go in there and start letting rip and fly, throwing punches, but that's not what this is about here. It's not what it's about. When I started having those guys do the drills, the advancing, the retreating, stepping left, stepping right, when I had those guys doing those drills, they were stumbling all over themselves. I was like, look at you. I said, you can't even keep your feet together. You understand? I was like, and that whole thing about, like I said, about spreading the legs all wide and everything, get on them about that. I do stuff, man, tie the arm down, use just your left. The entire time in the gym today, you're only using your left. Hitting the bag, hitting the speed bag, sparring, shadow boxing. And it's like, yeah, you know why? Because guess what? There may come a time you throw the right hand, boom, you get a stinger, or you hurt your elbow, or you break your hand. Now you gotta use the other hand, right? Does that not make sense? But you see guys like, oh, I didn't perform well tonight because I kind of hurt my hand in the third round or whatever. It's like, that ain't no excuse, is it?
No excuse.
It's no excuse for us. We know, right? We know if you were doing what you were supposed to be doing in the gym.
That's why, as a trainer, I had already stole that punch from you 2 months ago. You didn't even realize I stole it from you. So when you did hurt it in the fight, that's why you was able to be successful through the remainder of that fight, because you didn't realize
he was able to still defeat Pitbull. He did hurt his hand. So, but he was able to defeat Pitbull because he was well versed at being able to use his other hand. You know,
you gotta be. That's warriors mentality. Like I'm talking about, like on the battlefields, you shoot me in that arm, or even deeper, medieval times, you shut that arm off. If I'm still in the fight, I gotta fight with the right arm. I gotta fight with the left arm. No arms, I gotta stomp you out, and I get close enough, I'm gonna bite you. You know what I'm saying? So it's the way of the warrior.
There's a great skit from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but they're like they're like knights fighting, and the dude gets his arm chopped off, and he was like, the opponent was like, look at you now, you know, you got, he's like, oh, it's nothing but a flesh wound. He's fighting. He keeps fighting, and the dude cuts off his other arm. And he was like, I can still kick you to death. And so he started kicking, Then he cuts the leg off and he's hopping around. And he was like, I'm still coming after you. It was all for a joke, you know, in the movie. It was a comedy, but it was funny, you know, that was the way of the warrior. It was like, hey, I might not have all my extremities, but I'm still going for it until you kill me, man.
Exactly.
That was hilarious, but yeah, it's one of those things, you know. But man. But also in defeating styles, man, to be able to have an open mind, to have that sense of like wanting someone to challenge you, wanting someone to bring something out of you because you want to know how you're going to do. There's not enough of that today. You know, where the guys they crave the competitiveness. It's not even about winning and losing to them. It's about being challenged. You know, some of these guys from the bygone eras, when they fondly recall their careers, it's one of the most common things you'll hear them talk about. You know, when somebody really gave them a rough go, you know, it's like, that's that thing that, because it made them realize, like, I am a fighter. I am a warrior, you know. And we know as spectators, we know they're warriors because they're getting in the ring, doing something we ain't gonna do for a living, getting hit in the head and everything. Yeah. You've already proven to me that you got balls of steel, you know, but to see someone like still want to go at it and go after it or whatever. It's like when Ali lost to Frazier the first time and the press was talking to him and they were saying, Ali, you really probably don't want to go through that again. And he turned around and told him, oh, how wrong you are. He was like, give me 6 months and I'll see him again. You know what I mean? That's the mind of what we're talking about. And like for Joe Frazier, do you know that man, when you saw what George Foreman did to him in their first fight, he went out there and fought George a second time. People forget that. Joe Frazier fought George Foreman a second time. And he went a little bit longer in that second fight. But George was knocking him down and he kept getting up. There was no quit in Joe Frazier, man. No quit in that man.
That speaks to the whole well, not the whole subject of this show, but the whole triangle theory. George Foreman beat Frazier, but Ali beat George Foreman.
What was that?
I said that's almost avenue based off of what this show is about, defeating styles. We got the triangle theory. I said you had George Foreman beat Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier beat Ali. Ali beats George Foreman. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So same thing with Iran Broccoli, Roberto Duran, and Tommy Hearns.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Tommy put Duran to sleep, something nobody could do, and he did that. And then Duran put Iran on his backside, something that Tommy couldn't do. And then, of course, Iran put Tommy to sleep.
So that theory, like, it debunks itself sometimes. When they say do styles make fights, you like, does it really? Because remember, I think I had a conversation with you about styles making fights, and I was saying that somebody was used to say that it's not about the style, it's about the will. In some cases, that's true. That's true. You know what I'm saying? The man's will is broken, so he don't get a chance to showcase his style. And the other guy's style does prevail. But does that mean the style was better, or my will was just that much stronger than yours that night?
Well, this is what I have to say about that, especially when you salute to my brother Trick Noty out there. Not ignoring you, Trick. I'm glad to see you out there. Trick, 503 Lion. Good to see you, brothers. Healer, Woke, and Learn is out there. I appreciate all you brothers showing up for the show this evening. Clarence McLean, what's happening with you? Yeah, everybody's in there tonight. Listen, when guys fight at the top of the sport, unless it's a stinker of a match, they should fight more than once. Because the first fight is like an appetizer. It's like it could be good, it could be so-so, it could be great, or it could be horrible. But the next fight is the test of whomever lost the first fight, seeing if they could make an adjustment to come back and do better, especially if they feel that they can. For the one who won the first fight, he has to prove that the first go round wasn't a fluke. And those are challenges that can be only answered by the individual. You know what I'm saying? Another reason why we should see more of these men mixing it up more than one time.
Yes.
Using the analogy of what I just said, Usyk fought AJ twice. First time, he beat him kind of easily. The second time, the fight was a little closer, but Usyk was still superior. This proposed fight between he and Fury for a rematch, I think that's going to be quite similar, because Usyk presents the type of a challenge that he can adjust, but he's not going to go too far outside of himself unless you present him with something to make him do so. That's a complete fighter who's not doing more than what's required. We don't see enough of that in the fights. If these guys could mix it up more, it will say more about them. We just don't, we're not getting that. But I do believe that with some of the coaches and trainers, that will be more than likely to happen if they are given, you know, that type of encouragement by the coaches and trainers, that by knowing that you've been in the gym. Like, I believe that everybody that Bo Mack works with out of his gym, with his assistants and his team, they feel very confident when they go into a ring, because they're given so much from all directions to complete them as fighters. I believe that the fighters who fight out of the Garcia Boxing Academy, same thing. Those guys are good. And to be perfectly honest, I have Robert Garcia as a front runner for Coach of the Year this year because of what he's been able to do with his fighters. And you know, he's got Rodriguez facing. He's been
real active. Yeah.
Huh?
I say he's been real active this year.
Yeah. And he's got Bam Rodriguez fighting Estrada this coming Saturday. And if Bam wins that fight, that's almost a shoe-in for Robert Garcia to me, because he's done some great work with his talent. And a lot of his talent he's brought from the bottom up. It is not guys who came looking for help. You know what I mean? It's like he's cultivated a lot of his talent.
Let me say something as far as Robert Garcia. I was saying the same thing about Robert Garcia, but there was a card, I can't remember. I want to maybe say last month, maybe. He maybe kind of look at him a little differently, because he had a kid in there fighting, and the kid was taking a beating.
Yeah, the Santillan against Brian Norman. Yeah, and I talked about that. I did. So I think we're on the same page with that. But I'm gonna tell you something about that though, and I hopefully Robert is listening, because Robert has an ear to the ground. It's okay to have ethnic pride. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Proud of who you are. Be proud of your people and everything. But never go into the professional boxing ring thinking of an opponent as being inferior because of their race.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could be taught the most earnest of lessons. Let your skills, your capabilities, what you have learned, what you have come to put together, be what speaks for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you prevail in that, that be what places you on a pillar. But your ethnicity, because let me tell you something. When you're dying and you in that ER,
Mm-hmm.
you might not see someone who looks like you that is in a position to help save your life. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
It may be someone whose native language isn't yours, the one that you speak and most familiar with. But they could be the best on hand to help you see tomorrow. Think about that.
That's a fact. That's
Yes.
a fact.
Yes. But when I saw that fight,
Mm-hmm.
I was angry with Robert because I said he should have stopped that fight before Santillan got stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Because Santillan had put up a stellar effort, but he was in there against a better fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And you save your guy by stopping it for him,
Saving from himself.
letting it go to the completion that we ended up. Now the fans, we love the ending. It's like, yeah, it was exciting. You know, we love train wrecks.
Mm-hmm.
But if Santillan is not going to fight again, let that be how he went out on his shield. But if you're thinking of bringing him back, you got to help him recover from all the damage that he sustained in that. And that's kind of hard to overcome.
Yeah. You got to save a fighter from himself sometimes.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I said it that night. That's why when you brought it up, what did I say? I mentioned their names right away.
Yeah, right quick.
Because I said, when I did my post fight, I said I was thinking of Robert being coach and trainer of the year, but I said after that fight and after his decisions in that match, how he let that kid go out there and continue to get a foot put in his ass, I said, I'm sorry that I might have to rethink things. But I'm just being sincere. And if you notice, I articulated it perfectly because this is not about ethnicity. It's not. It's about skills and your abilities in there. Because every man is tough when they fighting professionally for a purse, right? Every man. I don't care if his record is 0-35. He's tough because for 35 times he's gotten in there and he keep getting back in there. You know what I'm saying? So it makes a difference, man.
But look, aside from that, yeah, I can see why you can say that, because like I said, Robert's been active this year. And if you actually looking at trainers' records based on the year, well, he's had like maybe 2 losses on his record this whole year.
Dude, he's been doing some
maybe the only one.
work. He's been doing some phenomenal work.
Been doing some good work over there. And he's one of those trainers that kind of rubs off to his fighters that they kind of fight like him too. I think his brother was the only one that didn't do that.
Right. But he could have saved Santillan in that fight from some of that because those last 2 to 3 rounds, Brian had really stepped it up on him and was starting to really punish him. And I was like, man, just, because you could stop it in the corner and be like, my guy, his shoulder's out, we stopped it. You once you stop it, you can give whatever reason you stop it, right? It's a TKO, it's a stoppage. But you let him go out there, and let me say this about that the way he was finished off. When you see a fighter's body wilt and just like go limp lifeless. Like, dude, he's done. He's done that night, and psychologically, he could be done forever.
Forever, yeah.
You know, they talk about, oh, Devin is gonna be damaged because this guy beat him up and with PEDs in the system. Santillan is going to be damaged because they let him take too much.
Too much.
Because you could leave him to fight for another day. He could always say, well, you know, my coach stopped it. I felt like I could keep going. You know, he still has that. But every day he got to run that damn VHS back or the DVD back of the fight, and he looking at the tape, and he was like, he don't even remember what happened to him, you know. But
it's gonna be a certain point. He gonna be like, I don't remember when that happened. When did that happen?
That's what I just said. Like, you know what I mean? So you gotta be careful, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You gotta be careful. So, you know, but hey, you know. But yeah, man, we already at that hour, man. It's like, see, this is why I say this is a show we could come back and revisit this subject.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of variables that we can throw out there, because there's a lot of instances that I just think of.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because somebody asked me the question about Roy Jones. They said, is Roy Jones a bad trainer? I said, Roy Jones is a good trainer based on the fighter that's presented to him. If you give him a guy that can't correlate with what his style already is, meaning send him a guy that has a high output, I believe Roy can work with him. Don't send him a guy with a low output and no foot movement, and he's foundationally driven to damn start with the jab. That's why we saw the up and then almost a decline of Chris Eubank all over again. We seen, but then we started seeing him look too much like Roy Jones Jr. And I was like, he can't do that. He has to stay true to Chris Eubank, and he has to incorporate some of Roy. Like when Roy worked with David Benavidez. I heard you backstage when we watched that fight. You said Dave takes too many punches, but I believe Dave took less punches in that fight than I've seen him in previous fights. You know what I'm saying? And I saw a lot of that downward shuffle that Roy was showing him, and it was working because he was slipping and rolling a lot of those punches, utilizing that simple side-to-side footwork that Roy was teaching him. So it depends on the fighter. So I can't call a trainer bad. I think it depends on what the fighter, but he's a bad trainer based off of the way we look at it because he can't make that adjustment. You know what I'm saying?
One thing that I marveled at after I saw him the first couple of times of fighting, I said, what would Jerron Boots Ennis look like being trained by Roy Jones?
He fights in spurts already like Roy, but he
That's
doesn't
what I'm
fight
saying.
Roy.
He has the talent to do what Roy did. He has the talent.
You know who else does
kind of weird, man, because the first, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying like I'm the first person to say this, but I can recall on my air, the first time I had watched Jerron Boots Ennis fight a few years ago, because I didn't know the guy. And I watched him. I said, this guy, and me and Kurt, RIP to our brother, Curtis Anderson, a.k.a. Kurt Sugar, we would talk almost every day, man. And I said, Kurt, this guy got Roy Jones-like talent. I mean, I'm not calling him Roy Jones, but I see certain things that are so familiar. I'm like, it's kind of weird because a lot of fighters tried to fight like Ali, you know?
Yeah.
You had Greg Page, you had Quick Tillis, Larry Holmes a little bit. There were a number of guys throughout the years that tried to fight like Ali, but none of them were like that until I saw this young southpaw middleweight by the name of Michael Nunn. And I was like, this kid fights just like Ali. He was like a middleweight Ali, Michael Nunn. Fast hands, blazing foot. He could get in and out of range with his feet, and he was amazing. And he threw, it was like effortless. I remember when he knocked out Sumbu Columbe in one round with a Sugar Ray Robinson like left hand. Some boy reached and he dipped back and came right over it, boom, and hit Sumbe in his chin like this. Knocked him cold.
Full counter, huh?
Sumbe had fought tough middleweights, man. Mike McCallum and guys. He was in there tough. Michael Nunn.
Was it a pull counter?
With Nunn, I wouldn't call it a pull counter because Nunn was like pursuing him, and he threw a shot, and Nunn just kind of leaned back, but fired at the same time. He impressed Ray Leonard, who was commentating on the fight ringside. And there had been talk about him possibly fighting Ray Leonard, because this was way before Ray fought Terry Norris and all of that. Ran for the third time, all of that. And Ray was so stunned at his performance, he said, Nunn is definitely a fighter to watch. He said, as far as me and him, he was like, I don't know. He's like, he's young. He kept saying he's young and fast. But Michael Nunn didn't have it up here, though. He didn't have it up here. If he had it up here, he probably would have went through that era as the best middleweight. But he didn't have that. But he had that talent and ability. So when I look at Jerron, and I'm looking at that familiar thing about Roy, because that's not something you're going to see a lot. It's not. It comes along every so often. You know, that's just like when Meldrick Taylor came along. He had Ray Leonard like hand speed. You know, Meldrick's hands was fast as lightning, bro.
Look, you know, you say it comes around every once in a while. You know who else would go and be able to work with Roy? He's in Florida now. He's fighting in Florida this weekend. Teofimo Lopez. He fights in spurts. He looks to try to he looks to try to shock you and catch you off guard. You remember how Roy used to be explosive? One punch catch you on your heels, and then he jumps on you with the barrage of punches. Or start loading up with the disrespectful punches that you want to call them, the triple right hook or the double straight. I used to have a lot of guys tell me those are disrespectful combos. They said, you're going to be disrespectful and throw it straight and then throw it straight right behind it. I said, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Same thing with the hook, Captain Hook, triple hook. And you be like, man, and yeah. So T.O., I think he would mesh well. So like I said, it's all on with these guys today. It's what their actual philosophy is that we can find fighters that can migrate to them instead of, you know what I'm saying? Because like with Errol Spence is looking for a new trainer now, and everybody was asking who should he go work with. In my opinion, go back Mexican style and get with Robert Garcia.
Thank you for saying that, KG. See, you and I, man, let me tell you something, man. Robert Garcia would be perfect for Errol.
Yes.
Because of Errol's style. Yep. Errol fights a Mexican style. He does. People can say what they want to say or whatever, but that is that style. More so than what Abel Sanchez was trying to say about Triple G and all of that. No, Errol fights in that style. And I think that Robert could fine tune that with Errol, because he could give him certain subtleties that will allow him to really flourish in that. Man, I thought the same thing when they said he had left Derek James.
That's the first person that came to mind.
I was like, that's who came to mind for me as well.
That was the first person that came to mind.
I'm going to tell you something. To not even consider that means that you have blinders on when it comes to boxing. The same thing that I said about Robert not stopping the Santillan fight,
Mm-hmm.
He had blinders on, that pride and all of that. Listen, sometimes you got to do what's for the greater cause. To understand that, it takes a lot of discipline, and it takes a lot of understanding and wisdom. And that doesn't come easy. Yep. But hey man, go ahead and give us some final thoughts. We will come back and return to this subject. I'm not sure about next week, but we're definitely going to do a part 2 to this, because there's so much more that we can talk about, and we can go beyond a part 2. Yeah,
most definitely. Yeah, we're gonna have to put a pin in this, because as we talk about this, it might even be a third show, because as we talk, I know your brain, I can see how your brain fires. It sparks you to think of something that's triggering you as an example. And as you talk, you trigger me into something that's an example based off of, you know what I'm saying, with this thing we call styles.
Yeah.
And like I said, we didn't even really get like fully technical on how to dissect the style. You know what I'm saying? We touched on it, and pretty much, so this is a part 1. Yeah. So everybody that's listening to this episode, know that this is where you want to start. Remember what I said, people, this is where you want to start, because this is where we crack it open, because the next couple episodes or even more episodes is going to get us actually dissecting how a boxer puncher can be picked apart by an outside fighter or a counter fighter or an inside fighter being overwhelmed by a slugger, not being able to stand his ground as the inside fighter. So yeah. It's like I said, it's real triggering, and I enjoy it, because like I said, every time I'm on your show, Stormy, and when I, you know what I'm saying, catch your premieres and everything, I gain something from it, and I appreciate it. So it's I'm appreciative to it, and I appreciate the fact that you want me here today speaking with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. You know, with an acute boxing mind, we could bounce thoughts, ideas, and everything off of one another, because it's like, that's what happens when you know, because I would never say you don't know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about, and it makes it easier to have that conversation, because like you said, I'll say something, trigger some thoughts with you, vice versa. It's like, you know, it's like a couple of jazz musicians that sit down and just start playing the part of a set. You know, it's like they ain't even played together before, but they just playing off of each other, you know, and it's like, man, that sounds good. And everybody sitting there tapping their feet and everything. Like, that's what it is, right? That's why jazz is so associated with the sport, or had been for so many generations. So yeah, man.
I just like how I like to associate music in general, because I have those jazz days. So like I said, it all depends. But like I said, and that's a different pocket of being a trainer, how we actually enforce our philosophies and get our fighters to do what we want them to do. And there's a lot of indirect things that people really don't even recognize. And it may seem small to some, but when you start seeing the damn end result, it's just like that house that you drive every day, that you watching it be built. If you take 3 weeks off from watching it being built, you come back that third week, like, oh my God, look at my house. That's what we do with fighters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, we're gonna hear from the Black Gentleman's Grooming Company.
Okay.
We offer the best grooming products for you. Yes, all natural and handcrafted too. We want to help be your swagger, style, class, and luxury. Make our products tailor-made for you with high quality. Yeah. So get in style with the Black yeah. Grooming company. Give you swagger, style, class, and luxury. In luxury, yeah. The Black Gentleman, yeah. Company. Give you swagger, style, class, and luxury. In luxury, yeah.
Located at www.theblackgent.com.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that came out this evening and showed some love and support by hitting that like button, man. You know, these shows are done to talk the sport of boxing from a coach's perspective. And I really appreciate the brother KG joining us this evening. Love to have him back because we can get some quality boxing conversation going through that. And keep a lookout because we will return to this subject. But for this evening, we're going to sign on off, say shout out to the mighty LDBC, and we will catch you guys on the next one. This has been a Tuesday Tussle, and we up out of here. Appreciate everybody. Peace.